Senator Back.
Yes, thank you, Acting Deputy President. I rise to support the Plebiscite Bill 2016 and explain why. Acting Deputy President, as I recall, we went to a federal election on the 2nd of July and the coalition led by the Prime Minister indicated that should the coalition win the 2016 election, there would be a plebiscite to determine the issue associated with same-sex marriage. The people of Australia, knowing that that was the circumstance and knowing that was the position of the coalition, Acting Deputy President, before I go any further, can I just make the point that I listened with respect and quietly to the contribution of Senator Rice and Senator Wong. And I, for one, will not appreciate any interjection from the Greens, from Senator McKim, in my contribution. Senator Rice sought respect, and I gave Senator Rice respect. I seek that same level of respect from Senator McKim. Acting Deputy President, I have spoken many times in this chamber supporting marriage as being between a man and a woman, and today's debate does not centre on that particular issue, but for those who are interested in my views, they can go back to Hansard and they can read them. And never once in the years that I have spoken on this issue have I mentioned the topic of religion. Never once, and I don't propose to do so today. I'm probably going to disappoint Senator Wong when she speaks of Senator Abetz and Senator Bernardi, and perhaps I'll break confidentiality of our coalition party room, because it wasn't Senator Abetz or Senator Bernardi who suggested a plebiscite in the first place. Acting Deputy President, it was me. It was my contention that if we could not resolve this issue, then we would go to the people of Australia, and that was the overwhelming view. So it's terribly disappointing for Senator Wong on the one hand to criticise the Prime Minister and yet on the other hand deny she and her colleagues the right of a free vote on this issue. The Prime Minister has simply honoured the commitment given in the coalition party room, and that was that we would go to the people of Australia on the topic of the intense interest that exists around this question of same-sex marriage. We have heard from others, we've heard today twice, the overwhelming view, apparently, of the Australian people on this particular topic and their support for it. If that's the case, Acting Deputy President, then surely those who are so strongly of that view would be keen to see it tested in a plebiscite of the Australian people. Why do I say that Senator Wong has been duplicitous in her criticism of the coalition on a free vote? Simply because the Labor Party, under the leadership of Mr Shorten, have been committed to one particular situation, and that is to oppose the plebiscite. And for anybody who says, oh, no, the Labor Party's got a free vote, all they need do is go back and speak to my Western Australian colleague, the now recently ex-Senator Joe Bullock. And as we know, Joe Bullock made the statement he could not support the position of the Labor Party, and so he resigned as a senator representing the state of Western Australia. It is the case that the Greens political party has been consistent, but nevertheless I would not determine the words free vote when it comes to a circumstance in which their leader has already said how they'll vote. And indeed, in this 45th Parliament, Senator Xenophon has made the statement that those of the Xenophon team will vote a certain way. The last time I was involved in discussion, debate, etc., I was of the view that people could come into a debate openly, wanting to consider the views of others and vote accordingly. But that's not the circumstance in this Parliament, either the House of Representatives or the Senate, because we already know that the Labor Party, the Greens Party and the Xenophon Party will commit their people to vote in a certain way. Now, I'm disappointed, and I listen very, very carefully, and I certainly respect Senator Wong and Senator Rice for the advice you give us in relation to how people are likely to behave. I have a lot more faith in the Australian people than our colleagues who have spoken before me. And as I reflect on these comments associated with intolerance and hate speech, I go to 3 instances which are the reverse. The first was the trashing of Senator Bernardi's office in Adelaide by those opposed to his view. The second was the incident at the Macquarie Sydney Airport Hotel recently, when activists became aware that there was a Christian group planning to meet to discuss these issues, and as we know, there were threats of violence, there were feral social media posts, there were questions of staff of the Macquarie Hotel, are your children safe at Macquarie? And there were calls showing for disdain. So if there's been evidence of intolerance and hate speech, it hasn't come from those who would support marriage as it is currently defined. And I speak in Tasmania, when the Catholic Archbishop of Tasmania, or Hobart, had the audacity, apparently, to put to the Catholic community of Tasmania a position in relation to preserving marriage as that between a man and a woman, and the man was dragged before the Anti-Discrimination Commission in Tasmania until such time as common sense prevailed, and after a long period of time, the charge was dropped. I would certainly hope that Australians would treat this issue seriously and courteously. Senator Wong is correct when she said that we passed anti-discrimination legislation in this parliament years ago, and I'm not aware of there having been an outburst of hate speech as a result of that legislation, making it illegal to discriminate against same-sex couples in a whole range of areas, as it is illegal to discriminate on the basis of race. The comment has been made that those supporting marriage as being between a man and a woman will somehow have the financial advantage over others. Well, I would say that the publicly funded broadcaster, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, has taken one position, that of being supporting same-sex marriage unilaterally for the last period of time. And so therefore I would question whether or not that allegation or that charge is valid. It is a question of cost, Acting Deputy President, I accept that. But let me remind those in this chamber and inform those in the public gallery that as a result of the debt incurred during the 6 years of the Labor government, this country, through you, Acting Deputy President, as taxpayers, are paying $1.2 billion every month, not to repay the debt, no, just to pay the interest on the debt. $40 million a day, 7 days a week, through you, Acting Deputy President, and I and others in this chamber who pay tax, we're forking out $40 million a day just to pay the interest. And interest rates at the moment are 1.5%. Imagine if they went to 4%. So yes, it is a cost. It is 4 days interest on the national debt to give the people of Australia the opportunity to have their say on the 11th of February. 4 days interest on our debt. I don't reckon that's a bad bet for a population of people who went to the election on the 2nd of July knowing that should we win government, the Prime Minister would move towards a plebiscite. Where has it changed in this parliament that democracy gets thrown out because one group do not want to accede to the decision of the Australian people? That's what we went to the election on. Acting Deputy President, I will conclude my comment here. Although I support marriage as it is currently constructed as being between a man and a woman, if in the plebiscite, if it is held on the 11th of February next year, if the people of Western Australia vote to support same-sex marriage, I will vote to support in a subsequent debate on legislation to support same-sex marriage, because I represent the people of Western Australia. And I challenge everyone else in this parliament, all of those in the reps, all of us in the Senate, I challenge everybody else to do the same thing. I've heard there are people saying, I don't care what the outcome of the plebiscite is. From our side, I will go my own way. Well, I'm putting on the record again that if the people of WA, who I represent, support same-sex marriage, I will support it. But if I do so, everyone else, every one of the 225 of us, should commit, because that's why we are here. Those in the House of Representatives by an electorate, those of us in the Senate are representing the state from which we come. And if the people from that state, in my case, or in the House of Representatives, if the people of an electorate vote 50% plus one, that will be my position. But I do say this, it's 3 months away, the 11th of February. It's 3 months away. And I would urge all of you who want to see this matter resolved more quickly to support the plebiscite, to have confidence in the Australian people as to the common sense and the integrity and the decency of the Australian people. We should support the plebiscite. It is what the electors of Australia did when they voted the coalition into government. And if indeed it is so overwhelming that same-sex marriage is the mood and the will of the Australian people, it will be determined on the 11th of February. And if it is not, then I challenge everyone in this parliament to vote according to their constituency.